Well, this morning we are continuing our breaking news coverage regarding the death of Reverend Jesse Jackson, as so many of us know him as a longtime civil rights activist who has really left such an indelible mark on our country, fighting for the voiceless, an agent for change. And nobody knows that better than another local civil rights activist. We have Mr. Jim Felder on the phone with us this morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Felder, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we want to get right into just learning more about Jesse Jackson. Just explain to us your relationship with the Reverend Jackson and, some of the memories that you share with him this morning.
Yes, I have known him since childhood. He was a member of the NACP Youth Council in Greenville, and Jim Cliven and I were youth council members in Sumter. That was the beginning of our relationship, and that grew through the years, through college and fraternity. His early life really began with the sit-in at the library in Greenville. That was the beginning of his activism while he was a freshman college student. I've been watching the various pieces on him this morning, but the piece that is left out is when he decided to run for president. And that was really, he made that decision after campaigning for President Jimmy Carter in 1980. He came through South Carolina campaigning and dragged me along with him to campaign for the next 30 days with President Carter. Well, Carter lost his reelection bid in 1980, and that's when he and I spent the next 2 years on economic impact for Black-owned businesses. So we began an effort to knock on corporate doors, the fast food industry, the beverage industry, and the beer industry, to get those corporations to give up more franchises to Black business persons. And it worked. And so over a period of 2 years, we were able to get Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola and Budweiser and the fast food industry, McDonald's and Burger King, to do the right thing by granting franchises to Black businesses.
Mr. Felder, when you take a look back at Reverend Jackson's legacy, what is a defining moment for you in that? Something you witnessed or something that influenced you personally? What is that defining moment when you think about his life and legacy?
Well, the defining moment, I guess, was when he decided to run for president in 1984. But even before that, it was the economic piece that really got my attention when he said, we need to do more for Black businesses across this country. And that's when I gave up everything I was doing, moved to Chicago, spent 2 years with him doing those kinds of things in terms of making the corporate world do the right thing by the Black community. I guess you could say that was a defining moment.
Absolutely. And, just searching on social media and seeing so many folks talk about him and who he was as a person, something that stuck out to me was a lot of people painted him out to be almost somewhat of a small comedian. I was telling Whitney this morning when I came in that I got a chance to meet Reverend Jesse Jackson back in 2014. We were in an elevator and it kind of caught me off guard. And I was like, oh my gosh, and he put his finger over his mouth and he was like, shh, don't tell anybody. And I looked around and I was like, well, Mr. Jackson, we're the only two on this elevator. And we both just started laughing. So would you agree with that, that as folks are saying on social media, of him being just somewhat of a character and a comedian?
No, well, not really. But he did have a very humorous side to him. And he could sneak up on you, I guess I'd put it that way. But now the other thing I wanted to also mention was the fact that when he and I met with Governor Nikki Haley, this is 2015 now, this is the time of the assassination of the 9 people down in Charleston. He and I had a meeting with Nikki Haley, she was governor at the time, trying to get her to accept Medicaid funds for South Carolina, which is $14 billion was sitting out there. We met with her and she promised she would do something about it. But the next thing we knew, she was headed to the UN, appointed by Trump, and nothing happened to Medicaid. So we're still here in South Carolina waiting for Medicaid funds to come around the corner. But there's an iconic photo of me, him, and Nikki Haley in the governor's office where she made that promise.
And sir, speaking of his leadership here in South Carolina. I mean, when we think of Reverend Jesse Jackson, I think of just this huge national leader, somebody who is larger than life. But one of the things that I have always loved about him is his love for South Carolina. He definitely stayed in touch with his roots, constantly advocating on behalf of equality and equal rights here in South Carolina. Can you speak to his love for his home state?
I certainly can. He never gave up his residence in South Carolina. The house that he lived in is still there in Greenville. I was up there several weeks ago picking up some artifacts from that house to put in the Civil Rights Museum down in Orangeburg. He was always in and out of the state. His mother was a beautician. My mother was a beautician. And that was another area that the two of us crossed all the time. And South Carolina was still home, even though he spent all of his adult life in Chicago. All of his children were born there, but he never gave up on Greenville and always came in frequently and still maintained the house in Greenville.
Absolutely. And we know Reverend Jackson was an icon and, a civil rights activist. What is something that you would think that he would want the generation today, his message to them moving forward?
His message would be stay in the political process or get in it if you are not in it presently. He believed that the vote could change things, and he was correct. Unfortunately, we didn't use all of our votes in the last election, and we're in the mess that we're in now with that administration in Washington. But that would be his legacy to young people, and that would be his recommendation to the young people of today. When we were young, we couldn't vote. See, we turned 21, and we couldn't even do that until the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and Lyndon Johnson signed it into effect. So he believed in the political process, and he not only believed in it, but he got in it and encouraged others to do likewise. His message would be vote every day in every election.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, thank you so much for reaching out to us this morning. We have one more question for you.
Yes. So, Mr. Felders, he carries so many different roles, pastor, activist, political figure. How did he balance all of that? I mean, he was a man who wore many hats, and yet he was so approachable and people could get in contact with him. I can't even imagine what his calendar and his schedule looked like on a day-to-day basis. So how did he handle all these different roles?
It was a rough schedule. I traveled with him all over the country and all over the world, for that matter, the 2 years that I spent with him. He never slept. You wondered, when did he sleep? But the stamina was there. He just believed that you didn't waste time. Time was precious. Time is neutral. So you have to do what you do all the time. He was and he believed in physicality, I guess you would say. We would go to the gymnasium and shoot basketballs early in the morning. We would walk around the tracks wherever we were. That kept him physically fit. But this Parkinson thing is what really took him down. He couldn't beat that. But he was just an energetic person, believe me.
And speaking of that energy, he could have rightfully said, you know what, I have left my mark, and chose decades ago to stop fighting. Same thing for you, Mr. Felder, as well. I mean, extremely active, have never stopped fighting for civil rights. What is the passion? What is the push? What has kept both you and him going?
Well, we both cut our teeth, as I said earlier, as youth in NAACP, and we saw what our mothers and fathers were doing in a time when things were just tough for black folk in terms of politics. And I guess because of that, we saw what could happen if you got into the game. And so as a result of that, we see what could happen in terms of elected officials, in terms of making things happen for the betterment of the community, getting people registered to vote, which was my first job in South Carolina. We know that the vote had what we needed to use to open the door and be a part of what was going on. As Antoine Seawright always says, if you are not at the table, you become the menu. And so we didn't want to become the menu. We wanted seats at the table, at every table, from school board right on up. And as a result of that, things would change. And things have changed as a result of that.
And Mr. Felder, you are a man of many hats as well, and one of which is an author. As you are looking forward, how are you going to continue to incorporate Reverend Jackson's legacy in your work?
Well, I'll continue my efforts in voter registration and education. And at this time, as we speak, I'm trying to finish my memoir, which will capsule all of what I have done with Jesse and with Jim Cliven and others, and hope that somebody will read it and realize where we came from, what we did, and how we got to where we are today.
Yes, sir. And my final question for you this morning. He had so many quotes that just stuck with you. One of them is, "I am somebody." What does that message mean today? How does that resonate with people today? What do you think he hopes it resonates for people today?
Well, keep hope alive was one. It's my favorite expression that he had. And of course, today we need to have hope, but you can't just have hope. You've got to work at it also. I think in the Bible, in James, it says, stuff without work, faith without work, you get no place. So you've got to have faith and you've got to work as well. That is part of his legacy also.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about Reverend Jackson's legacy, his life, and the way that his impact is going to continue to be felt for generations to come. I mean, the work that he has done, the work that you have done, and that y'all continue to do, I genuinely believe that you are planting seeds that generations will be able to harvest from. So again, thank you so much for your time this morning and for giving us another look and shining a light again on Reverend Jackson's on his life and his legacy. We appreciate you, Mr. Felder.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you can bet support is pouring into social media this morning as State Representative Jermaine Johnson posting this photo coming up on your screen from a time where he met Reverend Jackson, saying, "Every step of my journey from homelessness to State House has been guided by fearless faith, faith that meets challenges with courage and purpose. That same faith is leading me forward into a new journey and a chapter of the people of South Carolina. Today, I am announcing my campaign for governor of South Carolina because I believe in a new South Carolina, and I believe our best days are still ahead."
Also, we are hearing this morning from Reverend Al Sharpton, who says, "My mentor, Reverend Jesse Jackson, has passed. I just prayed with his family by phone. He kept the dream alive and taught young children from broken homes like me that we don't have broken spirits. He told us we were somebody and made us believe. I will always cherish him, taking me under his wing, and will forever try to do my part to keep his hope alive." And then Stephen Gilchrist, U.S. Civil Rights Commissioner, writing this morning, "Reverend Jackson was a giant for justice whose life's work expanded the boundaries of the American dream. As a fellow South Carolinian, I am profoundly moved by his legacy of economic empowerment and his tireless advocacy. His transition marks the end of an era, but his impact on civil rights remains an enduring blueprint for future generations." And again, we are going to continue to see more and more tributes pouring out from our community, from around the state and from around the nation, because as you sit down and you look at Reverend Jackson's impact, I mean, it is something that we are all benefiting from in some shape, form, or fashion. And already on social media, I have seen so many local lawmakers, I've seen celebrities, I've seen national lawmakers starting to wake up this morning and responding to the news of his passing. And everyone, the tone is the same, and it's of gratitude.
Absolutely.
It's of appreciation. It's of honor and respect for the work that was done. And I think when you look back on his legacy, you can't help but say thank you, Reverend Jackson, because we would not be sitting at this table if it was not for the work that he did and the work like other civil rights activists like Mr. Felder did. But also, too, you look back and you realize that civil rights fight was rough, and it was hard, and it was real, and to continue to push through all those challenges because you believe that everyone deserves the right to equality and to be able to vote and to be able to have the same textbooks that are of the same standard and to get a good education. I mean, that in and of itself is such an incredible legacy to leave, and to know that he not only faced those challenges, but he also inspired so many other people to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you say seeing people like Reverend Jesse Jackson, it makes you feel so honored, and it gives you all that sense of gratitude. And being from Montgomery, Alabama, where a lot of the civil rights movements kind of took place, being from there and just seeing all of the work that the civil rights activists who have gone before us, that they have done and they have completed, it just makes you so grateful for them, because they didn't have to do that.
Right.
They did it because they wanted to. They did it because they wanted justice for us. And like you said, so we could be sitting at this news desk this morning. I can't tell you how many times I hear from the older generations. When I was growing up, I didn't see people like you on TV. And I'm like, you know, it's all because of people like Reverend Jesse Jackson, who fought for that equality. Rosa Parks, you know, all of these icons who have gone before us. And it just truly makes you feel so grateful to be able to, like me, say that you ran into them. Even though that it was on an elevator, it was just exciting. And then that feeling that I had in seeing him, I was in complete awe.
Yeah.
It was my birthday. So I just, you know, it was just truly an honor to meet him, and knowing all of the great things that he has done as it relates to voting, civil injustice, and things of that nature.
And you know, one of the things that I am noticing is so many people are posting pictures, not just like the AP photos or photos from like news articles or professional photos, but a lot of people are posting pictures of themselves,
real photos,
with Reverend Jackson, which to me is a indicator of how approachable he was, of how no matter how famous he was, he still genuinely cared about the people. And so I think when you go on social media, that's one of the things that sparked. I'm like, oh my goodness. Typically when we see like somebody of this magnitude pass away, you see a lot of those like professional photos, but I am just taken aback by the amount of photos that people are sharing. It's like, I saw him in an elevator. I saw him on the street. I saw him when he was here in 2015 to advocate for the Confederate flag coming down. And so, again, I think that speaks to who he is, not just as a civil rights activist, but as a good man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good man. Yeah.
That's a good man, Savannah.
That's
absolutely.
a good man.
And you know, you spoke about, you know, his times here in South Carolina. And like Jim said, he was no stranger to South Carolina. He came home, and just to briefly talk about his last time in the capital city, it was back in 2019 for a cause rooted in justice. Now, he traveled to Columbia for a press conference hosted by Next Steps Coalition, a group focused on issues within the criminal justice Center. Now, at this speaking engagement, he addressed community leaders and advocates during the morning event, and he held it at the Columbia Marriott, continuing his decades-long work. And you just got to be grateful for that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.